How's it going? Dave and Comic Book Investments. So I thought this would be kind of fun to do. As a comic book dealer, I've been doing this for well over a decade, grew up around this stuff my entire life. But as a comic book dealer, how would I actually price VeVe? How would I actually price the comics on there? Because there's a lot of people thinking that it's the same, like literally the same. So if you have a Spider-Man 1 and a 9.8 and it goes for, $1 million, then the VeVe top is, the top one is, worth the same price, $1 million, whatever it is. There's a lot of people who think that. I'm going to give you two scenarios. So I'm a skeptic, so to speak. So I'm just putting that out there because I can already hear people typing on the keyboards, with their red circles telling me how I don't know what I'm talking about and all this kind of stuff. I've heard it all before. But I'll admit, I'm a skeptic. I'm a skeptic of NFTs, not NFTs, the technology, but NFTs, how they're being used now. Because the way I see it, supply and demand. And if you make an NFT of just about anything, the supply is through the roof and there's not enough demand there. So just how they're being used right now, in general. I've heard other concepts of NFTs where they're basically like a digital key to get into something. I like that concept better. So I'm a skeptic of VeVe and NFTs in general. I've had multiple videos about it, so I don't need to go into it more, but just throwing it out there. So I'm going to give two scenarios. I'm going to give you my scenario right now, how I would price these things. I don't think they're worthless, like $0, but I'll give you how right today, I think how you'd price them. Let's pretend there is another universe out there with another David, who's also a comic book dealer, but he is in love with NFTs and VeVe, and he thinks they're as great as all the other people out there that think they're amazing. And I will give you a way to price them based off of that David's version. So I'll give you two. I'll give you the skeptic version. I'll give you the over the moon, I'm gung-ho about it version. Okay, so let's get the first version out of the way. This is the one how I would personally price them. Okay, so these all came out a couple years ago, a year, 2 years ago. There's ones that are coming out recently. I would price them as the facsimile versions. And if you guys aren't aware of a facsimile version, it's basically like a reprint of it. Let's see if this pulls up. So it looks like this. So it looks like a Hulk 181 for the most part, but it's a little different. We can click on this person's listing. As you can see here, it's $3.99. That's what they were. I mean, the original one was probably like 25 cents or something. I can't remember now. This came out in 2019. It says, someone got it graded, and, it's a 9.8. And then it's a little different. As you can see, it has like the Marvel logo down there, and it has like the UPC code over on the right-hand side. Slightly different, but it looks generally almost identical. The pages are going to be identical. It's just the UPC code's different, and then the price is going to be different. But outside of that, it's identical to, the original. And, there's a bunch of them you can look at. And if we look at the print run for this one, when it came out, it sold about 56,000. Then there's a few more. So I'm generally thinking that this had a print run of about 60,000. And that's probably about what I had when this came out. A print run of 60,000. So they're pretty easily, you can find them pretty easy. If we go here, this is basically what they go for. A 9.8, recently one sold for $103. As you can see right here, since they came out, when they first came out, obviously they're $3.99, but these are graded ones. In case you don't know what this is for graded sales. So a 9.8, which is pretty much the top grade, you're looking at, on average, $117 is what they're selling for. If you get a grade, if you come back and it's a 9.6, you're looking at $80. There's even a 9.4, one sold for 75, one sold for 60. It's different printings. There's also a few variant covers, things like that. But generally speaking, there's a print run of about 60,000. And which is probably about what VeVe has. Let's see, like usually with this one has a print run of 30,000. Let's see, where's the Spider-Man one? Right there. So VeVe usually has a print run of 60,000. as well, or drops, or whatever you want to call it. And it comes out, list price is $6.99. The facsimile cover was of Hulk 181. They start at $3.99, so a little less, so a little higher. So I guess since it's higher to get into these, you could probably raise the price a little bit, since it's nearly double the price. And obviously, as common all the way down to secret rare, the secret rares are going to be obviously more expensive. But generally speaking, that's how I would see it. I would see it as one of these. Now, they do these for everything. I think, name the comic and they have a facsimile edition of anything. That's how I would personally price it. I price it the same as these. So if you had a VeVe Hulk 181, generally speaking, you're probably going to get about $100. That's what I think it's worth if you get one of the higher end ones. So think if it's a low grade facsimile cover, that would probably be in your commons and uncommons, and then like 9/8s, 9/9s, 10/0s, that'll be your secret rare. And a lot of people are going to say like, oh, the secret rare is harder to get, so it's less common than just this one, which had a print run of 60,000. But then you can look over at like King Spawn. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with King Spawn, Todd McFarlane, he's right here, sold for $800. That's what they sell for right now. He signed and numbered each one of these, and there was 1,697 total. But a few of them, instead of doing it in red ink, he did it in blue ink. And so those are much more rare. He only did 5 in blue ink, and I think 5 in green ink. So it looks the same, but it's in blue ink, which basically makes it much more rare. Now, out of 1,600 roughly, only doing 5 of them, I think it works out to less than 1%, like a fraction of 1%, like 0.3%. And you can see the price difference. This one sold for almost $4,000, while the normal kind sells for $800. So yes, there is a markup, a 5 times markup. But like I said, that's less than 1%. As opposed to VeVe, 600 out of 6,000 is 1%. So these secret rares are actually more common than the blue ink King Spawn #1. So if you had a secret rare, once again, this is me how I price it, a secret rare with a low, minting number, I would probably price it higher. I would probably put the 9/8s that are there, like if you had a Hulk 181, selling for, what did I say, sell for around $100. If you had a 9/8, I'd put that probably around here. These would be like the 9/8s or something. And then these commons would probably be like the 9/0s, 9/2s, 9/4s, things like that. And then a secret rare, you could probably, if you had a low minting number, you could probably raise the price up, right? Maybe up to 5 times. So now that $100 Hulk 181 that you have, a VeVe Hulk 181, now it's $500 for like the top minting of the secret rare. That's how I price it. And I know a lot of people are going to be angry because they think it's worth hundreds of thousands, 50,000, 10,000, whatever it is. And personally, I just don't see it, especially since it's listed for $6.99 and there's 60,000. You have to think of print runs. Like in comics, there's print runs. That's what makes things more expensive. And I watched like Sleepin' Comics, I think that's his name is. I like him because he seems very honest, and he doesn't seem all like overly excited about it. He's just pretty straightforward. And so that's why I like his stuff. And a lot of people saying like, oh, we're going to have 2 million users on VeVe or something like that. And then it comes out, according to his channel, it comes out that, most of them are bots and there's only like 240 or 250,000, which is still a lot. But you have to understand is you can have a huge supply like this, 60,000, but you need a massive, massive demand. If there is 60,000 people that wanted this, that means each person will get one at list price. If there's 600 people that wanted the secret rare, that means everyone would pretty much get it at list price, which is $6.99. That means you have to have way, way more than 60,000 people that want this in order to boost up the price. Because if there's 60,000 printed and there's only 10 people that want it, well, you can easily just get it for list price, because, or whatever they call it, the drop price, because there's no demand to meet the supply. In order for things to go up, that's why older comics are so expensive, because you have decades, if not 100 years, of people building up demand for it, and there's only a select few. That's why an Action Comics goes for so much, because demand is through the roof, but there's like 50 copies that exist. So everyone wants one. And so it's like me. It's like, I would love to have one, but I can't afford one. But imagine there's only 50 copies and there's only 2 people that want them. Then they'll just go for whatever they go for, like next to nothing, because no one cares. No one really wants them. So that's how I would price today as me. Okay, so let's go in alternate universe, another universe. Doctor Strange blasted me to another universe, and there's another David out there. Let's see how I would price this. This is going to be more favorable, but it's not going to be maybe exactly how you guys want. So, all right, so let's take this Spider-Man one. Let's use this as an example. Starts, drop price $6.99. Okay. Total editions, 60,000. You got the common at 48,000, uncommon 6,000, rare 3,000, ultra rare 2,400, and then the super secret rare at 600. So this is what I would do. Let's see if I can pull this up. All right. So first off, I would have to categorize it. I'd have to categorize it by grade range. And if you're not familiar with comics, there's grade range. 9.8 is generally the highest you can get. There are 9.9s and 10.0s, but those are extremely rare, and you won't find them in Silver and Golden Age. You might start finding a few in like Copper and Modern grades. So first we have to establish the secret rare. So the way I look at it is we got a 9.8, which is probably the top grade. That's going to be your secret rare. So the top 2 spots will go to your secret rares. So in this example, there's 600 secret rare. So I'd say 9.8s and 9.6s are your secret rares. And then you see this one serial number 1 through 300, or your minting number, whatever you want to call it. It would go like that. So the highest possible price one would sell for, let's say a 9.8 of Spider-Man 1 sells for $1 million, then your secret rare minting number 1 will be equivalent, not price-wise, but equivalent to the top dollar. And as you get down to secret rare minting number, 297, you're still at the 9.8 category, but you're on the lower end side of the 9.8 category. This will make sense. Another example. And then we got your ultra rare. Your ultra rare will be your 94, 92, 90 serial numbers, So if you want a 92 and you have an ultra rare, that will be, if you have serial number ultra rare 900, okay, that falls in the 92 category. If you have serial number and ultra rare at 2000, you're going to be at the 90 category. Then we got your rares. Rares in the next 4, 85, 80, 75, 70. And if you're unfamiliar with these, this is how comic books are graded. And they're graded off the condition that they're in. Now, obviously, these VeVe drops are all in perfect condition and can't be ruined at all. So you go off of minting numbers and things like that. Then you drop down and you got your uncommons are going to be the next 4 lines. And then your commons go all the way down. So that kind of gives you an idea of how you should rate your secret rares, uncommons, serial numbers, or minting numbers, things like that, and be able to equivalent it to a grade in comics. Okay, so let's go back to here. So this right here is the GPA. It tells me what prices they sell for. These are all graded comics. So for example, you got a 9.2 recently sold last month for $168,000. Now, the way we figure out the difference between a VeVe and a counterpart of an actual physical comic is it can't just be 1-to-1, right? So a 9.2 VeVe can't be worth $168,000 because if you look at here, a 9.2, there's 8 9.2s. This right here is the census. This tells me how many of Spider-Man 1s are actually graded, and we're going universal. That's the one we use. We don't use this. If you don't know what restored is, you trust me, it's not. None of this will work. Qualified signature, all that kind of stuff. So you're going to go off of universal because that's basically what VeVe is. It's universal. They're not signed. They're not qualified, meaning they're missing pages because you can't. And they're not restored because you can't restore VeVe. So we're going to go off universal. There's 3,100 Spider-Man 1s that are graded, that are universal. Let me move back over here. So yeah. So basically, if you're doing a secret rare, there's literally only 2 out of 9.8, but there's 600 at a secret rare. So what we do, this is what I would do. I would say, how many is there in total? There's 3,100. Let's say 3,000. 3,000. So if you look up here, you can see 3,000 Spider-Man 1s that are actually available, exist. And there's 60,000 VeVe, which brings that, it's a 5%. So 5% difference, right? There's only 5% compared to this. So what I would do is I would plug in, let's look at, let's go back here. So I just plug in, say this 9.2 recently sold for 168,000. Okay, so 9.2 physical is worth 168,000. But again, it's VeVe is worth 5% of that because based off how supply and demand. So if we plug in the 162, multiply it by 5%, you're looking at, if you have an ultra rare between 801 serial number and 1600, you're looking at, it's worth about 8,400. That's how I price it. A 9.4 recently sold for almost 250,000. Boom. And let's go down the list. And so if you have a common that is a really high print number, the highest you can get, 4,800, a 0.5 sold for a little over 5,000. So you're looking at your VeVe is worth $265. So much higher than the $699 drop value. But that's basically how I price it. Let's move on to another example. I'm going to show you real quick. Let's look at New Mutants 98. 6,000. Okay, you guys are all familiar with how this works. We're looking at a 9.8. 9.8s are, about that price. So if we look here, we'll go to New Mutants 98. There's the New Mutants 98, kind of same setup. What am I looking for? There we go. All right, so let's look at the census, see how many there is. Now, in this example, there is 12 at a 9.9 and 1 at a 10.0. Very, very rare, hard to come by. I would say if you had secret rare serial number 1, that would be your 10.0. The only one that exists. And then if you have a 9.9, I would say that's serial number basically 2 through 13, right? Because serial number 1 is to the 10.0. That's how I put that. So those are much more expensive, like vastly much more expensive. But then if we look at it, the total allotment is about 20,000 and there's 60,000. So it's, a third. Basically, VeVe is basically worth a third of what the New Mutants 98 first Deadpool goes for. And if you look at the 9.8, we're looking at the 9.8 here, there's a massive price difference. As you can see, just recent sales, you got 1,600, 1,650. Then you have one for 1,300, and you have one for 1,752. So I would say the highest number serial numbers of a secret rare, because that's a 9.8, would be your higher priced ones. And then your lower number 9.8 equivalents, because of serial numbers, would be 1,300. That's how I do that. And then basically you just, pick a price. Let's say it's around $1,500 and it's 33% of that, so $490, all the way down to a common, a 3.5 sold for $158. That'll be your common between these serial numbers right here. It's worth $52. Pretty much just like that. That's how I would do it if this was in an alternate universe. Something like this, this X-Men 170, it's not really worth anything. you're looking at $175. You know, you're looking at a fraction of that. I mean, these are the type of ones I would stay away from. Like if you're going for a common of this right here, there's 30,000 of a print run for this one. Like these books, ungraded, like so raw, they sell for like a couple bucks. If you got it like a 4.0, which is a 4 out of 10 condition wise, it's like less than $1. That's what they're basically nothing. They don't sell for even for $1. They sell for like they get shipping costs. No one would buy it. So people only buy these books in like 9.0s to 9.8s for the most part. So I would say your commons and uncommons and rares are barely or not even worth list price. They aren't. I would say the only ones that would be worth anything would be your ultra rares and secret rares of this, which would be your 9.0s through 9.8s. And even then, they're probably worth, if you had a top secret rare, I don't know, maybe $50, maybe $100 at the most. But these commons and all this kind of stuff, it's not even worth your list price. It's not. This book will never go up in value. And that's another thing. Like I showed before, see how prices change. This is New Mutants 98. See how it goes. Is it more expensive? It goes down over time. Sometimes they go up if you're back here, and it can go up over time. That's how VeVe should work as well. Comics go up and down in value over time. So something like the X-Men 170, it's not really going to go up in value because the counterpart is never going to really go up in value. I mean, it will. At one point, it was $100, and now it sells for almost $200. But it's going to take many, 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 many years. So don't get those kinds of books. Just get your keys. But even keys could go down like this New Mutants 98. That's pretty much it. That's how I would price it in two different scenarios. Me being a skeptic and also the alternate universe David, all on board. Let me know what you think. Like I said, this was just kind of like a thought. And I was like, how would I price this? And I thought it'd be interesting. Again, I'm not really into VeVe. I'm not in that community, all that kind of stuff. I just know comics. So take it with what you will. I'm not the expert on this. I'm just giving you my opinion on how I see it and how I would do it. Just remember, print runs. That's, supply and demand. That's what makes comics worth a lot or not worth a lot. So with VeVe, the issue is they always have massive print runs or drops or the amount that are available. Tons and tons available. So it always makes it not that expensive compared to the actual real comic. I mean, if you go, like I said, action number 1, it's like 50, that exist. They're super rare. But if VeVe doesn't do DC, but if they somehow did DC and they did drop an action number 1, you better believe it's going to be 30 or 60,000 drops, something like that. And which makes it supply and demand, like I said. So imagine if there was 60, like an action number 1 sells for millions of dollars. If there was 60,000 that existed of an action number 1 as opposed to like 50 or whatever it is, they would not be selling for millions of dollars. Guarantee that. They would not. It would sell, I don't even know, thousands of dollars. Maybe if you had the top grade. I don't even think so. Maybe $10,000 for the top grade, something like that. I don't know. Supply and demand.